No.
Rob, wake up.
No. TV's Rob is unwoke. TV's Rob is unwoke.
He's unwoke.
Welcome to it. It is TV's Rob is Unwoke. I am your very unhumble host, TV's Rob, and this week we're going to continue our deep dive into ranking the Star Trek films with Stephen Avery and Michael NP 1701. But before I get back into it, which this time we're going to go from 10 to 5, so we're almost through it. It's going to be a three-parter episode. I know it's a lot of nerd talk, a lot of Star Trek, but that's what we're into, and that's what I've felt like talking about. So before I get to it, though, William Shatner went into space on the flying penis of Jeff Bezos. Here's a little look of how that went.
God.
Weightlessness. Oh, Jesus.
Carmen line.
No description can equal this. Weightlessness.
This is nuts!
Oh, my God.
This is
Oh, wow. Oh, I'm telling you.
holy hell.
Oh, my goodness me. Oh, wow. I can't believe this.
Now, of course, most everybody was thrilled that Captain Kirk was going up into space at the age of 90. But one person who wasn't, George Takei, Sulu himself, continued their now, 50-year feud? Dude, seriously, let it go. Like they say in Frozen, let it go. But George Takei can't. He obviously has to dig at William Shatner any chance he gets, like a petulant little child. But whatever. So Takei went out this past week and said he's boldly going where other people have gone before. He's a guinea pig, 90 years old, and it's important to find out what happens. So 90 years old is going to show a great deal more on the wear and tear of the human body, so he'll be a good specimen to study. Although he's not the fittest specimen of 90 years old, so he'll be a specimen that's unfit. Look, just be happy for the guy. But obviously you can't. We all know and we all remember what you said to William Shatner at the roast of at the roast that Comedy Central hosted for him, the roast of William Shatner.
Despite our tensions, I am honored that you invited me to be here with you tonight. I can finally say what I've waited 40 years to say. Fuck you and the horse you rode in on.
So the big takeaway from this is George Takei is bitter and jealous of the success that William Shatner has had. Shatner obviously doesn't care what George Takei thinks, which, good on him. Seriously, good on him. But now, forget all of that. Let's get back into the rankings of the best and worst Star Trek films. This section, numbers 10 through 5. And if you didn't catch the first part, go back and check that out. Coincidentally, all of the Kelvin movies the J.J. Abrams movies ended up in the bottom 3. I wonder why that is. But check out this episode, and then the next episode will be the top 5. And number 1 may or may not surprise you. Let's pause a moment here to talk about protein bars. Do you like a good snack throughout the day, but you'd rather not pack on the pounds while doing it? Well, hey, I've got great news. Built Bar is here to save the day. They've got so many flavors. There's something for everyone. When you talk to a Built Bar fan, like me, they're passionate about their favorites. They've got amazing flavors like coconut, which is death for me, but hey, maybe it works for you. Mint brownie, which I love. Double chocolate, salted caramel, cookies and cream, which is great, and more. Hey, if you can't pick a flavor right off the bat, you can get a mixed box. What is a mixed box? You'll get 2 of each of their 9 regular flavors. Built Bars have up to 18 grams of protein, and they're 180 calories or less. only 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and only 4 or 5 net carbs. But you wouldn't know it by tasting them because they taste amazing. You can take care of your sweet tooth and still be healthy. How about that? And now you can get your Built Bars even faster. How? Check this out. The new URL is built.com. It's no longer builtbar.com. You get to save 3 letters. Think about the time it takes for you to type in BAR. Now you don't have to do it. And for you, the loyal audience of TV's Rob is Unwoke, Built Bar is giving you a discount off your first order. Go to built.com and use the promo code TV's Rob to save 10% off your first order. Use promo code TV's Rob for 10% off at built.com.
He's unwoke.
All right, so since we're through the Kelvin timeline, let's start with the Prime movies. And I have a hunch as to what's gonna be at the bottom of everybody's list here.
I have to say, when it came, I had a couple of predictions that I'd made. I honestly thought that you guys would have had a different bottom of the list overall. I was just actually very pleasantly surprised that we all have the same absolute hated movie. So. Well,
actually, the way that it kind of worked out here was that we ranked the Kelvin movies 1, 2, 3. Now we get to the other movies, so it's not like they're really at the bottom of the list. They're just kind of on their own list. I think if we had worked them in different spots of the list, then you could make the argument that, oh, hey, I guess.
No, my ranking was, I ranked those 3 against the Prime timeline as well. So, I mean, it just so happened that all 3 of them are at the bottom.
Right. It shows that even one way or the other, it shows that they're
going to be at the bottom.
Not equal to original Star Trek.
Which I find very interesting and funny at the same time, because these were big budget productions with a lot of support from Paramount with, tremendous casting and visual effects and everything else. And yet somehow they still made their way to the bottom for most people. Now, obviously not these what culture English bastards, but, to each their own. It's all subjective.
Although
they need to stick to reviewing Doctor Who is what they need to do.
One thing I will say about them is when you separate the Kelvin timeline movies out from the rest of their list, they ordered the Kelvin timeline the same way I did. So, point in their favor.
Oh, they get a point. All right. So let's. So we're through. I guess we're up to the top 10. Michael, take it away.
Well, my number 10 is Star Trek V. And several reasons. The retconning of Spock suddenly having a brother just out of the blue. I realized that Vulcans are very private people, and yet it never comes up in any circumstance, even at Spock's wedding. The fact that they made Sarek look like a bad father in this movie, even though just 2 movies before he was telling the Vulcan priestess how his logic breaks down where his son is concerned. That it bothered me that knowing from the original series and then later on what Sarek goes through in the Next Generation over Spock, to see him portrayed as less than thrilled that he has a half human son, that rubbed me the wrong way for him. I
mean, and come on, you impregnated a human woman. You knew what you were going to get. Right. Come on.
Excuse me.
It will carry my power to every corner of creation.
Excuse me, I'd just like to ask a question. What does God need with a starship?
Bring the ship closer.
I said, what does God need with a starship? Jim, what are you doing? I'm asking you a question.
Who is this creature?
Who am I? Don't you know? Aren't you God?
He has his doubts.
You doubt me?
I seek proof. Jim, you don't ask the Almighty for his ID.
Then here is the proof you see.
Why is God angry?
And then the end where Cybok is locked in combat with the giant head entity is they already did that in the original series. So it, all in all, it was just a retelling of a bunch of different things and just stirring it all together and trying to come up with a story.
All right, Steve.
So, my number 10 is also Star Trek V. For me, it was just an absolutely poorly written movie, poorly directed movie. Thank you, William Shatner. And it just really didn't fit at all. I mean, you know, the motion picture didn't fit, but that was also the first movie that they had made since the series ended. But then you've gotten to Star Trek II, and moving on from there, you had a series of movies. They weren't episodic, really, right? It was a long arc that they were working. And then you get to Star Trek V after 3 movies that work well together, and you hit a brick wall. It didn't fit anywhere. I kind of see what you were saying about making Sarek look like a bad father. I somewhat disagree with that, in that the memory that comes up, that was when Spock was born. And so all you have is a father with his newborn son. Mm. And it kind of makes sense. He's the first human Vulcan hybrid, so Sarek's going to have some reservations. But then you get to the later movies, and you see their relationship is drastically different from when Spock was younger. So in my mind, it kind of helps to see why Spock and Sarek are the way they are, where even though they obviously care for each other as family, there's still some tension in there, simply because of Sarek's misgivings in the beginning, and Spock knew about it. You know, they still work around it sometimes. They're still aware of it, but they've grown in their relationship, so that didn't bother me so much. But overall, like, none of it made sense to me whatsoever. I mean, you got this brand new ship that's got absolute issues all over the place, obviously not ready for action, and somehow they're the only ones capable of getting this improbable planet that's got humans, Klingons, and Romulans, you know, all supposedly working together.
The planet of galactic peace?
Yes. The planet that proves, you know, gun control doesn't work.
That's true.
So, I mean,
very true.
The movie itself just, you know, and I'm sorry, but they completely cheapened Klingons in that movie. I mean, this is a proud warrior race, and the first scene you show of them in the movie is they're shooting old satellites because they're bored out of their minds. No. I mean, that, and then that's your justification for, it's Kirk! We're going to go kill Kirk! Just because they're bored.
I would become a legend if I killed Kirk. Well, I mean, he's not wrong. But at the same time, you're like, yeah. Star Trek V is the perfect example of what happens when you have competing nations clauses in contracts with studios. Because, Leonard Nimoy got to direct a movie, which means I get to direct a movie because we have a warring nations, competing nations clause in our contracts with the studio. So if Spock got a pay raise, I get a pay raise. If I get a pay raise, he gets a pay raise. If he gets to do this, I get to do this. No. Shatner, You know, he really swung for the fences. You have to give him a tip of the hat for that. But damn, was the execution just absolutely terrible.
He overdirects like he overacts.
Which, you know, there's something to be said for that. I mean, like I said, at least he swung for the fences. I didn't like the let's try to work in comedy while also at the same time taking pot shots at organized religion. It just, you know, if you're gonna go in this direction, go in this direction. Don't try to mix too many things at the same time. Star Trek 4 had humor mixed in, but it was woven into the fabric of the actual story. This was a story that we tried to shoehorn comedic opportunities into without actually writing anything funny. Maybe it's because he's Canadian. Maybe Canadians don't have a good sense of humor. I don't know. But the jokes fell flat. Back to what you were saying about the ship. Come on. You mean to tell me that this Constitution class refit starship didn't have all the kinks worked out? Though it wasn't built as a new Enterprise, it was rechristened Enterprise. If you ask me, that tells me that Scotty went in there and screwed with a bunch of stuff and broke the ship just so he could try to repair it. That's your conspiracy theory. The Enterprise A problems was an inside job.
I mean, does it really surprise? I mean, the man admitted in Star Trek 3 that he multiplies all of his repair estimates by what?
A factor of 4.
Mm-hmm. Right? He went and screwed with the Excelsior's engines right before they stole the Enterprise. I mean, would it really surprise you that he went and intentionally screwed with the Enterprise A just so that he could fix stuff?
But then not fix them?
So,
I mean, I don't see him going that far where...
He did take a rather nasty bump to the head later. I mean, that do you really think that's the first bump to the head he's ever took? I mean, that would explain a lot of stuff.
That's true. Plus all the drinking. I mean, he is supposedly Scottish.
It landed him in a murder trial in the original series.
Yeah, so, I mean, that was an unfortunate movie. And the fact that they actually got a sixth movie was really surprising for most people, because that really could have killed the franchise.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sorry, Star Trek 5. I love the marshmallow dispenser that Kraft made to promote the movie. I've got one of those. I love the thing. The Uhura Scotty relationship thing I found kind of creepy. Yeah, just
it was out of nowhere, just like a lot of things that they try to throw in. It was out of nowhere, made no sense.
Yeah.
Had they not had that in there at all, it would have changed nothing in the movie.
That's true. And come on, you know, if you're, and the visual effects when Kirk is falling from the side of a mountain, that was terrible. And the fact that Shatner wrote a scene where he's climbing a mountain, bro, I was out of shape and old as you are right then. I know you were TJ Hooker at the time, but stop it. Stop the delusions of grandeur.
Been climbing a set of stairs.
Exactly.
At least then it'd have been believable.
Exactly. I mean, and like you said, proof that gun control doesn't work. We forbade them weapons. They've simply fashioned their own. Gee, does this sound familiar? What? All right, number 9. Michael, take it away.
Number 9 is Star Trek Insurrection. I know. I know I'm in the minority for that. But my problem with it is it may have just partly been my mood at the time. I don't know. But it seemed like a glorified soap opera. And the plot, the reasons for why things were happening didn't go together the way they thought they were going to, it looked like. And then they tried way too hard to be funny in that movie. So many things just didn't land. Honestly, the only joke that landed for me was when Data noticed that Riker shaved.
Smooth as an android's bottom, eh, Data? Yes.
And that's that. And it didn't add anything to the continuous story as far as, the adventures of the Enterprise crew for me. And that always meant something to me.
For that part of it, when it really came to it, though, the Next Generation movies weren't a arc per se. They referenced some other stuff, but they didn't go into an arc like the original movies did. About the closest you could say to them actually continuing anything was First Contact, when they revisit Picard having been assimilated into the collective. But even that wasn't like a direct arc of any sort. It was more just a reference to things that hadn't been discussed before. Basically just giving some more insight into what happened. Other than that, I mean, the Next Generation movies were very much episodic.
Which I'm completely okay with. I'm okay with these movies being self-contained.
I was okay with that.
Not an overarching story that you have to watch all of them to really get the flavor. I'm okay with that.
I was definitely okay with it in that case because they didn't try to establish an arc and then throw in some weird stuff later. They were their own movies, and they dealt with their movie. Maybe a little bit of throwback to references here and there, but other than that, they were their own movies.
They also acknowledged that they had no hand in the Dominion War at all, because they're like, considering our losses to the Borg and the Dominion, we're running around putting out brush fires.
Which I still think is one of the greatest travesties of the Star Trek universe. How do you not have the flagship involved in the greatest war that the Federation has seen in a long time?
Your most advanced starship, the one built to destroy the Borg, somehow is on the sidelines. Yeah. All right. So Insurrection from Michael. Steve, what about you?
Okay. So at this point, 13 through 10 were movies that I hated. At this point, we have transitioned into I like 9 through 1. It's just a matter of which ones would I prefer to watch first. Okay, so I want to put that out there. With that being said, my number 9 is the motion picture.
Pajamas in space.
For me, it was a great movie.
Was it?
I put the caveat in. For me, it was a great movie. All right. And in all reality, it wasn't a bad movie. It was just a slow movie, hence the nickname slow motion picture. But it had a completely Trek storyline to it. It just didn't have a lot of action, which is something that you cannot send to the movie theaters. So, it fell into the same problem that Gene Roddenberry's original pilot for the series did. It was too cerebral, right? You had a couple of torpedo blasts at the beginning, and then they shot up an asteroid about 10 minutes in, and then the entire rest of the time, everybody's staring at a view screen. I mean, it's kind of like... The closest thing I can compare it to is the current day Godzilla movies, where the only action really going on is between these giant monsters and all the people that actually have any kind of speaking lines. The only thing they can do is stare and comment. And so now here you are, you got this giant cloud heading for this planet, and then a bunch of people in the middle who can just basically stare and watch. So the only difference is, at least in Godzilla, there was fighting. So I mean, but like I said, overall, it wasn't a bad movie. It's just not something that you should really send to the theaters because you're going to be sitting there thinking, and people don't want to pay $35,000 to go to a theater and watch people stare at a screen when that's what you're doing yourself.
Yeah. I got to go with you on having the motionless picture down in that position as well because of pretty much everything that you just said. But at the same time, the pajama uniforms, Decker's dick being on screen. I mean, it's one of those blink and you miss it type scenes, but you still notice. And that thing is off center. I mean, it's just messed up. The fact that you can see this guy's dick on screen in a Star Trek movie just seems completely weird to me. The pacing of it and no explanation as to why the Klingons all of a sudden look different from what we knew from the original series. All of a sudden, now we have the warrior-like race with the ridges.
We don't discuss that.
Well, that's what they say, but,
Right.
you know.
No, Worf
I want to
already made
discuss
that
it, damn it.
Worf has made that clear. We don't discuss that.
I know.
Not with outsiders. That's their business.
Exactly. But, you know, I mean, we should discuss it. Somebody should have said something. And that movie alone shows that Gene Roddenberry is his own worst enemy. Because he meddled so much. And there were, I mean, the fact that you were filming while the script was still being reworked, rewritten, parts of it actually being written for the first time. This proves everything that could go wrong will go wrong when making a movie. And it showed. I think that this movie could have easily been a 2-part series episode, and it would have been just fine. In fact, oh wait, that's what it started as. It started as a treatment for a whole new Trek series that grew into this super ultra padded motion picture length script. And Kirk with Spanx, you know, to keep the midsection all nice and tight. That didn't work out very well. And your big baddie was a NASA probe satellite.
I mean, NASA works for the government, so...
Yes, NASA is evil.
Essentially, the government was coming down on us.
It was destroying everything in its path because it didn't know what to do with itself. Hey, you're right. Oh, now it's now it just shot to number 1 on my list.
And it's willing to destroy everybody because it refuses to accept that it works for them, not the other way around.
Yep. There you go. I'll go with that. but yeah, the motion picture.
I can justify anything, damn it.
I will, but you know, to give it a positive note as well, the introduction of the new Enterprise, which I would say that's actually the most iconic look for the Enterprise. What
Absolutely
I thought,
beautiful vessel,
huh?
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
vessel.
I mean, and the fact that they gave us those long, slow beauty shots of it, you really got to take in what take in the ship. Which, you know, I think that the thing that sucks about New Trek the most, and you know, I know that not everybody watches the New Trek. I'm looking at you, Steve, especially Discovery. They don't give you the beauty shots of the ship. These ships are more than just a ship that carry people. It's a character in the film, in the shows. It's a character that's vital to the story, and you don't get all these nice establishing beauty shots. So getting Enterprise porn for like 6 minutes while they play the entire suite called Enterprise, you know, by Jerry Goldsmith, I liked it. I like that ship. I like the look of that ship, and I thought that the refit Constitution class was really well done for that movie.
You know what would help New Trek though, in order to do those beauty shots?
Actually, having a model,
have a ship worthy.
That too.
Of doing beauty shots. I mean, 'cause let's be perfectly honest here. You take a look. Who in God's name decided that a saucer section with a giant open ring in the middle of it makes any sense whatsoever?
Now, what they do with that open ring is actually kind of cool,
I
but
don't care. It's stupid. It is stupid. The whole ship design is just the NX-01 is a far better looking ship than the Discovery is.
That's true. I mean, I'll give you that one.
The NX-01 could probably kick Discovery's ass. You know, if the two of them got into a fight, I would put my money on the NX-01.
Now, since I brought it up and you mentioned Discovery, I have to say, in later seasons of Discovery, having a Voyager J that looks very Intrepid class-like in the future is ridiculous to me, because Voyager was not all that in a bag of chips. It was not a great ship. The captain was the worst. Okay. So, number 8, Michael.
Well, honestly, Voyager looked to me like one of those things that holds your shoe in shape. Like you stick in a shoe, and anyway. So I don't disagree with anything you guys said about the slow motion picture, and that's why it's next on my list. It did, however, set the stage for future movies, and I think that's one of the reasons I liked it as much as I do, even though I fast forward through most of this movie even when I watch it. But the flyovers, the shuttle pod trip around so you think it's going to do it once, and then they go back again. And it's like really great. There are Star Trek moments in this movie, but it doesn't really feel like a Star Trek movie. It feels more like an episode of The Twilight Zone in a lot of ways. And then the end, everything, it becomes this new entity, and we never hear from it again. And there's no reason for that I can figure out, other than, okay, that was good, let's do something else now.
Yeah, I kind of wonder what happened to Vidra at that point.
Seriously.
Probably set up shop inside a wormhole in the Bajoran sector. It's probably a profit at this point. What about you, Steve? What you got?
For me, Generations.
Really?
So, again, mind you, in this part of the list, I am not saying that I dislike these movies now. I'm simply putting them in order of how I like them. It was a decent movie. Kind of like you were talking about with the motion picture. Generations felt like you could have made that a multi-part episode and ended the Next Generation series with that, and it would have worked better. So, not to say that All Good Things was necessarily a bad ending. It felt a little weird at times, but Generations, I think, would have been a better way to end the series. It still worked somewhat decently as a movie. And not even really a bad way to end, or a bad way to start off the Next Generation set of movies, but not my favorite either.
Yeah, continuity issues kind of plagued that, especially surrounding Scotty.
So, I will say, it had probably one of my favorite Data moments of all, when the saucer section starts heading towards Viridian 3.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit.
See, there were a lot of people that had that took issue with that one line. because I can't believe Data said, "Oh shit."
Why wouldn't he?
That's what I was saying.
Guess what everybody else on the ship was saying?
Variations of that.
Yeah.
Bingo. So,
I would have been dropping F-bombs.
Galactic languages.
I would say probably one of my favorite things about the movie, the end of Lursa and Bator. I was very, very pleased at getting to watch them blow up, even if it did appear that they were blowing up in the exact same fashion as General Chang's ship in Star Trek VI.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird how that happened.
No, they didn't know. Using stock footage, reusing footage from movies, that's never happened before in a Star Trek film.
No,
never.
No, it just means the Klingon bird of prey blows up a certain way.
Exactly.
In the exact same fashion.
It's almost like it's designed to do that. Did they also use that exact same footage in an episode of DS9?
Probably.
I think they did. Some of it, yeah. I could have sworn they did.
I haven't seen enough of Deep Space Nine to really say. But, I mean, it's not all that uncommon, really. I mean, they did the same thing between... well, I think it was Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 5. There was a scene where the Enterprise is going by and you're kind of at a lower angle and it's flying by. And I think all they did was like change the planet in the background or something like that. But otherwise, it's the exact same flyby scene with like observation windows down on the bottom of the secondary hull. And it's the exact same scene. I think they just changed the background planet.
In fact, in TNG, this is an interesting factoid. The Excelsior class ship that they used in all of those episodes was the exact same shot, just with different backdrop stuff behind it. It was either in space by itself or it had a planet behind it. This planet is blue. This planet is orange. It was the exact same shot used time and time and time again. I mean, you got to love cost saving measures, but come on. Don't make it so obvious. Let's see. So for me on this list, for me, it is Nemesis because that was a steamy pile at times. I feel bad for Tom Hardy because Tom Hardy actually isn't a bad actor. That role was just poorly written for him. But I thought he did as good as he could have been expected to in the role of Shinzon, the Picard clone. The Data death, I'm not a huge fan of it. I get why they did it. I get Data's motivations behind it, but I felt like there should have been a bit more gravitas behind it. I think Data deserved a huge, epic exit rather than what he got. Especially then, just afterwards having the little toast. And the wedding scene, okay. Troy and Riker had been off and on and off for more than 15 years. And they finally decide to get married after she's past her prime. No, Will Riker would not just settle for somebody who's already past their prime. Am I wrong? Okay, the silence is, I can't believe this.
I mean,
No. You're not wrong because Riker isn't exactly Captain Monogamy.
Yeah, so, I mean, finally decided to put a ring on it. It's like, where is it? That was complete total fan service because everybody was saying, oh, they should get, these two should be married. They're destined to be together. Fan service, blatant fan service, and not even well done fan service. All of a sudden, Wesley Crusher shows up. Where the hell has he been? All of a sudden, he's going to go serve with Riker on the Titan? What? How? Did he go back and finish Starfleet Academy and graduate? I don't know. There was no explanation of him even being there.
He was in uniform, so one would assume he did.
Yeah, but how, when? How? Why? So many questions. And the tired old joke, Romulan ale should be illegal.
It is.
I mean, we've dealt with that time and time again. I mean, again, fan service, and not even well done fan service. This is what happens when you bring an outsider into a franchise to make a movie. So many things were wrong.
Worst part about the tired Romulan ale joke, not only did they do a tired old joke and execute it poorly, they executed it with entirely the wrong person. Who in their right mind thinks Worf is going to drink Romulan ale? He hates the Romulans with a passion. They killed his father.
I mean, he did give him some props on DS9.
He did.
You know, when they joined the war and everything, he actually did say at one point they fought with honor or something like that. But
he says that in Nemesis as well.
Yeah, I mean,
know,
so for him to give him
fought
props
with
and
honor.
everything, it's like, eh.
So,
But-
which shows how big a person he can be, you know, when even it comes to the Romulans. But anybody in their right mind knows he is not going to touch Romulan ale.
Well, and if he did, are you telling me that Romulan ale is a stronger drink than Klingon blood wine?
Highly doubtful.
Yeah, I
Not a chance.
I wasn't gonna go there, but since you opened that door, yeah, I gotta go there now. So
You know me, I'll go anywhere.
yeah, I mean, and the whole B4 thing and having this Tard bot, it was no. I mean, having an evil bot like Lore is one thing. Having a robot, having an android that seems like he doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground just seems really, really, really cheap to me. And then bringing back the element of, hey, look, this ship can fire while cloaked. Where have we seen that before? I don't think it was the proper send-off for this crew. You know, I mean, everybody knew that this was going to be the last movie featuring that crew to begin with, and they were planting the seeds of Riker getting his own command, and he's going to go off and do his thing. He's marrying Troy, so obviously she's going to go with him. Beverly's going to go back to Earth to be the head of Starfleet Medical again. And then it was just kind of weak sauce all the way through the rest of it. And Admiral Janeway, no.
She didn't do anything to justify getting promoted over at Picard.
She didn't do anything to deserve being promoted, period. If anything, she earned herself a lifetime sentence in the brig for her exploits on Voyager, okay? She's a stone-cold killer, a murderer, who broke every rule that she supposedly upholds and values and dears so much. I mean, did she just delete her entire captain's log when she saw Earth at the end of that series? Or was Voyager an inside job and she was allowed to do whatever she wanted to, carte blanche, and Starfleet just turned a blind eye? Notice how I'm on the inside job kick right now. All that Alex Jones talk recently just got me like, everything's an inside job.
No, I mean,
What?
Wolf 359 was an inside job.
and at least we know when Janeway and Paris transformed, they weren't turned gay.
Yeah, why isn't he in jail for raping his captain? All right. What number are we at? 8?
8.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Take it away, Michael.
Okay, this is getting easy because we're on Nemesis for me.
No, we're on 7.
And wait, yes, you're right. We are on 7, but it is still Nemesis. I just numbered these wrong.
Afterwards, you'll have to send me your list. Or Steve, I hope you're taking notes of everybody's list. Just so,
Actually, I'm not this time.
Huh?
I'm not this time.
Oh, dang it. Okay.
But Michael, you've
the
got
captain
yours
doesn't
written
have to
out,
take
right?
notes. I do, and so I can.
Yeah, just send me your
Send
list,
mine
if you would.
Yeah.
All right.
So Nemesis for many of the same reasons, and when you mentioned B4, if you're gonna kill off a character, kill off a character. Don't like half bail on it by bringing back a duplicate of that character in 5 minutes. You know, it steals everything that you were trying to do by killing off the character in the first place.
Never saw
Again,
the sun.
Why did he have to? And Picard beaming off, Data shooting the energy beam to make it explode. That's fine. That's okay. I would have liked to have seen Data in like one final hand-to-hand combat or something. You know, just something to show really his dedication and how strong he is, and just give him more of just him taking care of the situation.
I felt like the death of Data in the series held more emotion to it than this in the movie.
You mean
in Time Zero,
where Data's head is 400 years older than the rest of his body?
I felt like the crew had more emotions about it. I felt that the story had more emotion to it than his death at the end of this movie.
It had more sense to it.
I agree.
Is that all you got on that one? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Steve?
So, Nemesis is next on my list. I actually enjoyed it. There were those elements like, B4. I mean, kind of, sort of made sense and not at the same time. I mean, you're dealing with a story that involves, basically a long-running Romulan plot that got shit canned. So the whole idea of it being we're going to replace Captain Picard with, a clone that we made. What are you going to do to draw him in? You're going to give him a mystery of some sort, and B4 made sense in that respect, right? They've already encountered another version of Data once before. A rough, shoddy prototype that doesn't seem to function anywhere near as well, named B4, which keeps with the whimsical names and also implies it's a early version of it, would kind of make sense, right? So, I mean, I kind of like the character, kind of didn't. It sort of worked. My biggest enjoyment of it was we finally got a storyline involving Romulans in detail, right? Next Generation Season 1, the episode Neutral Zone at the end of the season, we finally see the Romulans for the first time. And, that line at the end, we're back. And then we barely see them. And when we do see them, there's not really, we're either saving their butt in some fashion, or, the one episode that really would have legitimately justified conflict, the season 7 episode, the Pegasus, right? Romulans had a legitimate complaint there. And all we wind up doing is basically, okay, we found it, and we go out and, we found out they actually did do it, and we're going to spank them for it, and that's it. I mean, we never really see a whole lot going on with the Romulans. So now we get a movie where the Romulans are there. And then they give us the twist where they're not even the bad guys. So I wouldn't necessarily say that they became allies, but it was definitely a very good showing of the Romulans in this case, where you actually got to see a lot of how their society works and what they're willing to do, when things aren't working out the way they wanted them to. And, okay, we thought we were going to do this thing in order to take care of this long-standing goal, and turns out this is going to be worse than what we had in the first place. So, you know what? We're willing to work with you guys in order to fix this mistake. So, I mean, overall, the storyline was great. Like I said about, Data's death, it completely made sense to me, even if it was, seen coming from a mile away. I mean, the Titanic couldn't have missed that. So, I mean, it was a decent enough movie for me to put it on the I like it list. It's towards the bottom, but it's on the I like it list.
All right, for me, Insurrection would be the next one on the list, because a lot of the things that we've already discussed, but it harkened back to the slow moving. There was only one really good. There were only a couple of good action sequences in it. Definitely not enough Enterprise porn. Again, here we have the most advanced, most badass ship in the fleet getting its ass kicked, having to eject the warp core. So now it's going to have to make the long trek to Earth under impulse power. I mean, stop trying to destroy the frickin' Enterprise in every frickin' movie. It doesn't need to happen. So, and the whole radiation thing, oh, we're practically immortal, and all of a sudden Worf has pimples. Troy and Riker are acting like horny teenagers at prom.
In all fairness, though, with Riker, could you really tell the difference?
Well, he was a bit more in your face with Troy about it. That was about the only thing that was different about Riker's. Hey, now I'm going to actually openly flirt with Deanna and try to basically dry hump her leg all the way through. I mean, but then you get him in the tub and it's like, hey, which I didn't know we still had tubs. Thought everything was Sonic.
You saw that in season 7.
That's true. The de-evolving episode.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Troy immersed herself in a tub there because she was turning into something.
Some
with
fish
gills.
thing.
Some amphibian fish something or other.
The acts of the Admiral Doherty, I'm thinking, really? You mean to tell me that Starfleet didn't know what this guy was doing? What he was really doing? We have to do a full review. That just seemed kind of fishy to me. But at the same time, some of the humor didn't land, and I don't know what it was with the Next Generation movies, why we tried to shoehorn some sort of romantic interest for Picard into most of them. First Contact, he had Lily. Insurrection, he had what's her name? Anij.
Yeah.
So I don't know why we really felt the need to do that, where we had a woman that Picard was all of a sudden interested in one way or another. It just seemed kind of weird to me.
He was tired of not getting as much action as Riker. There's one area where his first officer outperformed him.
Well, I mean, he always took the stance of, I have to be the captain. I have to be this upstanding French-British gentleman. Or British-French gentleman.
You would think he would have learned his lesson after that incident with the lieutenant commander.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then you have, now, oddly enough, it was also the first Trek movie with blatant nudity in it. Because you got to see Donna Murphy's boobs when she was in the water. Now, granted, wet top equals, see-through. So I found that to be kind of interesting. I don't know why that was needed to be in there. And then Data saying, I operate as a flotation device. Do ya? We've never seen that before. And you can't tell me that's the first time you've ever been in water.
That really just falls under the category of humor that doesn't quite land, though.
Yeah.
No.
And then the whole the plot to resettle these people and basically destroy a planet, but the Prime Directive doesn't apply because they're not indigenous. And then, when you peel back the layers of the onion, you find out that, the people that Starfleet were working with were really just a bunch of pissed off people from that same planet.
And, that kind of plot device was something that we covered in our first discussion about Trek, and that so many people misunderstand the Prime Directive. It's not a matter of, they're warp capable, we can do whatever we want. The Prime Directive is non-interference, period.
Yeah.
The whole warp capable thing deals with first contact.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If they are pre-warp, you do not make contact. Period.
Yeah.
So if they are warp capable, you're allowed to make contact, but you do not have the authority to interfere with their culture. So, and that's what this whole thing is they were trying to manipulate the Prime Directive to say something that it doesn't. So, which falls very much in line with the government trying to do whatever it can to get what it wants, and damn the consequences.
And you mean to tell me that the only reason that Picard was actually willing to stand up for these people is because he was feeling rebellious because of the radiation?
I don't think the radiation had anything to do with it. It was very much a matter of, this is wrong.
Well, that's the way that the movie was kind of leading it, because at first Picard's making his report saying, it should be fine, since they're warp capable, won't have any long-term effects on their society, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden he gets a wild hair up his ass because the radiation is making him feel all rebellious. I mean, because Data even pointed that out, this radiation is probably, rekindling some of your fires, and it affects everybody except me, of course. And they're like, well, what do you think we should do, Data? And he's like, lock and load. He does the cliche of grabbing the gun, lock and load.
To be fair, that whole scene was all like that. It wasn't very well portrayed, but that was Data even engaging in sarcastic justification. So I don't think anybody there was under any illusion that the radiation was forcing them to, stand up for what is right. I mean, yes, it did affect some of their impulses, like Riker and Troy getting back together, Worf being a little more violent than he might normally be. But I don't think any of them would have acted any differently necessarily had it not been for that radiation. So really, when it comes down to it, when Data was saying, the radiation could be having strange effects on your, that was him, basically saying for the record, because they're affected by the radiation and I'm not. I'm the one who's going to make the call, and this is the call that I make. So, they weren't actually trying to say, oh yeah, the radiation's making them do this. It was, for the record justification.
And then, Data getting shot and going all off the reservation, and technobabble shut him down. For me, it just didn't seem things seemed off throughout that entire movie, and it seemed like it was poor writing and Jonathan Frakes doing the best he could with what he had to work with.
At least he was better than Shatner.
That's true. All right. Michael, what you got?
So we're at number 6 now. So Generations. And I've moved into now, these are movies that I'm sure we have complaints about just about all the rest of them, but there's plenty to like about this movie. Because, I felt like it was a poignant way of passing the torch from one crew to another. There's certain things that I didn't... Kirk's death, for one thing, that just was poorly done, poorly directed, poorly filmed, poorly stunted. Like it was obviously, a dummy tied to a thing. But let's see. I actually wrote some things down. Some thoughts. The Data's emotion chip arc here, it at first it seemed like shoehorned in, like it wasn't gonna matter. It wasn't really gonna do anything, but it did turn out to have a high impact on the way the story was told. And then, just I don't know if you guys know this, but the cast has ever since blamed Deanna Troi for crashing the Enterprise when the Enterprise has never crashed before, and they've given her a hard time ever since. She's the only one to have ever wrecked the
She
Enterprise.
deserved it. She did crash it.
That's
she
true.
was at the helm. She's to blame.
First time at the helm for real, and she runs.
Which
into
is
the
why you
planet.
don't let women drive.
I mean, to be perfect.
I mean, I'm surprised that the first Enterprise never crashed with Sulu at the helm, okay? I mean, that ship only had the blinker on the entire time.
So
Stereotypes exist for a reason.
In Troy's defense, though, I mean, when your engine and steering systems get knocked out because of a massive explosion, can you really place all the blame on her? I mean, she may have been at the helm, but, it's kind of like when you take that turn and you didn't quite account for the weather right and you wind up spinning out. I mean, it's not entirely her fault, and at least nobody died when they hit the planet. So, I mean, she handled the helm well enough for that.
That we know of. He said our casualties were minimal. That people died.
Well, I mean, there was an entire battle that happened right before all that. I mean, who's to say that the casualties didn't happen during that? I mean, in the 5 minutes that it took, do you really think everybody got out of the secondary hull before the warp core exploded?
Well, Geordi said they did. I mean, they did kill that teddy bear.
That's what I was going to say. Everyone but the bear got out.
So much for no man.
That was one of my pointless. Like, were they planning on filming the little boy getting loose and going back for his bear at some point, and they just bailed on it?
That
I'm
poor
not
little
sure why they
kid
threw that.
lost her teddy bear.
So
You
much for
fell
no
for
man
that.
left
You fell
behind.
for the teddy bear.
Yeah.
Is it my turn now? Okay, so my number 6 is Star Trek 4. So,
What do you hate? What do you have against whales? Why are the whales so low on your list?
I have nothing against whales. So, I
Do you not
really
think we have to save those whales?
Of course we do. It has nothing to do with that. So, I mean, it's just like I said. In this section of the list, it's not so much that I hate movies. Or that I even necessarily hate anything about them. It's just a matter of the order that I like them. So, I mean, it was a good movie. The last two movies had been pretty actiony. A lot of conflict going on in them. And so this one was a nice, it was a continuation of a story that had been established, while at the same time kind of taking a break from fighting. Right? So, and it was also, you kept hearing Starfleet personnel talk about, and especially in Confusion, talking about things that had happened, in the 20th century and such, and now you get to see a bunch of Starfleet officers in the 20th century and how they react to it. They obviously knew how to use money, which establishes that money is not as completely gone as some people like to try and say it is in Starfleet, but at the same time, they're not familiar with that currency, so that they're not entirely certain how far it's going to take them. They kept up with the whole science of the thing, where okay, we're going to go back in time to find some whales to save it, or to save the planet. And then, we got to figure out how to take care of these dilithium crystals that didn't quite hold up as well as we're used to. And especially paying homage to the Enterprise ship line, I thought was very nice. And I mean, you see that reference a few times in Star Trek, where you see the shuttle and the aircraft carrier, the old wooden ship, but especially like bringing it as prominently as they did in this movie, I thought was a really nice touch. So overall, good movie. So definitely worthy of number 6 on my list.
We have a ship called Enterprise in this movie, and we decide to steal shit from it. That's how much we love the Enterprise.
It's only photon.
The ship giveth, the ship taketh away. For me, since this is the absolute middle part of the list, so for me, I put Generations in this spot because it is a movie that's right there in the middle. You have returning favorites, though not the right favorites, because certain favorites that could have been a part of it declined because they weren't going to have enough of a meaty role to really dive into, which I totally get. But you have the return of some favorites. You have the reveal of the new Enterprise in terms of the Enterprise B. So we finally get to understand, why was there an Excelsior class ship on the wall in the observation lounge of the Enterprise D? Oh, because it was a ship called Enterprise, and it just, now of course it wasn't the right look of the Excelsior class. Not going to get into the minutia of all that, with the fins or whatever down at the bottom of the engineering section. But I thought it was a good passing of the torch type of scenario. I thought that weaving that stuff in was pretty clever. Kirk dying not once but twice in the same film, pretty impressive. Only he could pull that off. His overall death, his final death, could have been done better. But you had to kind of put that final nail in the coffin that, okay, this is no longer going to be about them. That this is the crew that will be taking the franchise forward. So I get the passing of the torch thing.
You do know why they had him die twice, though, right?
Because you had to make sure he was dead.
No, his death wouldn't be there till Tuesday.
That's right, till next Tuesday. So I did like. There's a lot of it to like. There's other parts of it not to like, which we've already discussed. Letting the woman drive and crashing the ship, never a good look. One way or another. At least she got to redeem herself in Nemesis, but even then, she still crashed the ship. But at least that time it was under orders.
Well, I mean, that's an ongoing problem with the Enterprise line, though.
Captain, excuse me. I'd like you to meet the helmsman of the Enterprise B. Demora? Ensign Demora Sulu.
It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. My father's told me some interesting stories about you.
Your father is a Kara Sulu?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you've met her before, but she was...
Wasn't that long ago. It couldn't have been more than...
12 years, sir.
12 years.
Absolutely.
Incredible. Congratulations, Ensign. It wouldn't be the Enterprise without a Sulu at the helm.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sure Hikaru must be very proud of you.
I hope so.
Warp core is going critical.
Separation complete.
Engaging impulse engines.
Core breach in progress.
Primary stabilizers offline. Engaging secondary systems.
Report!
Helm controls are offline!
Troy crashes the Enterprise D. Who was at the helm when the Enterprise B went and got tore up by an energy ribbon?
A woman. An Asian woman at that.
An Asian woman.
A Sulu.
They didn't learn from the first time they put a Sulu at the helm. Now, not only do they put an Asian, they put an Asian woman at the helm.
You know, it makes you wonder what Kirk really meant when he said it wouldn't be the Enterprise without a Sulu at the helm.
I mean, at least when Sulu was flying, the ship stayed intact for the most part.
It just had the blinker on the entire time.
Had the blinker on.
Nobody knew if it was turning left or if it was going to continue going straight or if it was going to turn right.
You put this new Sulu at the helm, and the first thing she does is fly right into an energy ribbon and blow a hole in the side of it.
And kills Kirk.
her godfather of all people.
Exactly. That's insane. So, Generations, it was a middle of the road movie that didn't have too many ups, didn't have too many downs. It was just kind of flatlined all the way through. So it was kind of a meh. So this gets the meh spot of the list for me. Now, before I go, I want to thank every one of you who were listening to this, or even better, if you are watching this on YouTube. That's right. You could see my ugly mug and Steven's mug and Michael's mug on YouTube if you so wanted to. The link for that will be in the description of this episode, so be sure to check that out. If you really want to, I would recommend that you do it on an empty stomach, because you don't really want to throw up when you see our faces, especially mine. So that's going to do it. I'm TV's Rob. This is TV's Rob is Unwoke. Special thanks to my wife and producer, Nikki, who lets me do this nerdy stuff willingly, I guess. And of course, Ryoga the Derpy Cat, which one of these days when I'm doing a video for YouTube, I'm going to have to make sure that he's actually in the room so you can see exactly what he does. So until next time, I'm TV's Rob. This is TV's Rob is Unwoke.